Hey, welcome back to another Honkai Star Rail video where we're going to look at the damage output that your units can do. Now, in the previous video, we looked at all 8 components of the damage output. Their attack, their broken, their crit multiplier, their damage multiplier, the enemy defense, the resistance, the speed, and the taken or vulnerability stat. And they all get conglomerated together, but this spreadsheet is a useful way that I use to do the accounting to see which of my units have an abundance in one stat or can have more improvement in a different stat. So, going over it, we have the attack stat, the crit multiplier, which is composed of the crit rate and the crit damage, the damage percent, the speed stat. So these first four are the ones that you can most commonly manipulate. And when you multiply them, you get a damage output. When you add in the last four, the enemy defense, the taken and the broken, and the resistance, these four are less common that you can manipulate, but they are still here, and they count the damage output if you include all variables. But generally, these last four are less easy to change, and I think most of the time you'll be using this first one right here. The way that you use this spreadsheet is you take in your inputs in gray and you start listing them out and going through. And as you add them, the character attack, you find that at level 80, the particular light cone you use, and their base speed. Uh, you start adding in things that are fundamental to their kit. Like if you use a skill, maybe you get some attack. Ultimate gives these conditions, and you'll list them here, and you put the conditions on the left. Each character has their own traces, passives and eidolons that apply, and although sometimes they're not permanently on, you can write or approximate how often they're on. For example, if you get an attack buff of 10% every other turn, you can approximate that to about a 5% attack increase overall. Likewise, the light cone and the relic set bonuses that you are using can be accounted for here. So, as you add them into these areas down here, you'll start populating them into uh, the areas in the top where you take your light cone stats and you add it to attack percent. Maybe it gives a little bit of crit rate, and your set bonuses as well. The big area that people are interested in is the relics. So the HP and attack main stats are already fixed. HP does not help towards your damage, but the body, the boot, and the orb and the rope can vary from character to character. So this top section is where you claim what your main stat is, and the bottom section is your substats. So I've used the most common damaging substats: attack percent, crit rate, crit damage, and speed. And you tack on a number for each substat that you have on that particular set. For example, your head stat may have 2 rolls of speed and 1 roll of crit damage. And it'll do the accounting and it'll give you how many effective substats is on this particular piece. And as you go down, you'll be able to see if one relic is really well equipped versus one that has a lower amount of effective substats and can use some improvement. Each of these will be summed across, and it will sum to a total amount of effective substats. You then take these numbers and put them in the number of substats that you have highlighted in yellow. And this will get you your general stats. To keep accounting, the substat total count is located here, and it'll compare, and it's just to compare against how many substats that you claim in your relics. So when you have inputted all of your character's information, you have an overall idea of how much attack, damage, and crit they have, and it will multiply across. You'll take your attack, crit multiplier, damage, speed, And these are the damage output multipliers. You'll multiply all these orange things together to find your total damage output. Now, most of the time, because these last four do not change, it may be more useful to just look at the first number because it's considering less variables. However, whichever way you use it, you can add to the variables as you see fit. And the key variables that you may more commonly see is how much base attack you have, your attack percent, your crit rate, your crit damage. These all impact your crit multiplier and are big bits of information for you to understand how much you have in a particular stat. Now, the last thing I have in my spreadsheet is something called sensitivity. Sensitivity is thinking, if I increase this one stat, how much does my overall damage output expect to increase? So, what I've done here is the blue ones ask, if I get one attack substat, how much does my damage output increase? If I get one extra crit rate, one extra speed substat, and this can help you determine which substats you tend to be more lacking or which ones you would prefer more. Similarly, these dark green ones indicate if you were to get one attack percent more, how much would your damage output do? One damage percent more, one speed point more, how would it do? So it helps you to compare if you were to get a particular variable, like would you rather have 10 speed or 20 attack percent? You can use this to compare which one gives you more. So it would be more advantageous to get 20 attack percent if this value was, say, you get a 1% for every attack percent that you get, and the speed was on the similar level of 1% for every speed percent you get. You would want to pick the attack percent more. So I'm going to link this in the description, and you guys can use it as you see fit by making a copy. And I'll go over in a second video about using it with a particular unit, doctor ratio, the free one that everyone has, so you can see exactly how you fully populate it and how you can find optimizations